Good afternoon, YouTubers. Welcome to Red Crimson News. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, we have a few interesting tidbits, pieces of news that I'd like to go over today, which would surely grab your attention. Now, let's first get into some great news you definitely want to stick around to hearing, and that is the Nintendo Switch phone. Yes, you heard that correctly. I came across an interesting article talking about a Nintendo Switch phone. Now, I don't know if this is some kind of old April Fool's joke, no pun intended, but the article states that, as you can see here, the IP68 rated device sporting a 7.1-inch OLED display, 120Hz LTPO panel is capable of playing Nintendo's best titles courtesy of the Qualcomm latest and greatest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor. That big display and the graphics intensive titles require a capable power source, hence the 7000 milliamp battery paired with a 60-watt fast charger makes complete sense. The Nintendo phone will also sport magnetic rails on the side to attach its red and blue Joy-Cons, which I would have to admit is a pretty neat idea, as well as some kind of latch in the back to further hold the Joy-Cons in place for more intense gaming. It seems like whenever my buddy and I talk about interesting concepts of the phone, it's like Nintendo or someone is listening, because a lot of ideas we discuss always seems to come to fruition. Maybe someone is listening. Well, I for one would be down with a powerful Nintendo phone, and in this day and age, it makes perfect sense to go down this route, being the mobile cell phone world we're living in. Imagine a Nintendo phone that has the Play Store games and apps alongside Nintendo's own offering. Would really put a sour taste in competition's mouth, and having Sony and Microsoft wanting to follow suit. Sony tried this back in the days with the PSP phone and it failed miserably. But we all know that Nintendo has the King Midas touch that mostly every concept, especially including handhelds, always turns to gold. We'll see what Nintendo does in the near future in regards to the Nintendo phone. Okay, moving into some more news. The PS5 Slim. I guess we all saw this coming at some point. Looking back at Sony's history, every console that released always had a slim iteration. The article here reads, the potential launch of a PS5 Slim is bound to appeal to players who have been put off by the size of the standard console. But slim consoles are essentially a cost-cutting alternative alongside a more attractive option. As manufacturing costs wane and more efficient parts become available, the possibility of a smaller PS5 that costs less while delivering the same experience may be coming sooner than we think. In fact, Sony has already started to trim down the PS5, at least internally. New models of the PS5 Digital Edition CFI 1100B is a whopping 300 grams lighter than the launch model was, and Sony even decided to change the screws that comes with the PS5 stand too. This revised console also has a redesigned heatsink, which resulted in a lighter system. There are a few caveats when it comes to hardware revisions. Slim consoles can often feel cheaper than launch models, which can sometimes be over-engineered. While that's not always the case, sometimes the cost saving can be felt when features are removed. The PS4 Slim, for example, removed the optical port which was found on the launch model. While many people did have issues with the so-called PS5 model design, I actually am in a corner where I really like the design of the PS5. The PS5 design was actually rather unique to me. I just didn't like how you had to put the disc in the disc. You had to put it in upside down. Now that was weird. Sony does some weird things. I don't know how they managed to mess that up. But I have no issues with the PS5 launch model design. But I'm curious to see what a PS5 Slim would look like. Now, if it looks a hell of a lot better, than the launch model and is smaller and sleeker, then for one, maybe I might pick it up. But for right now, I'm cool with the launch model. But the good thing is, the most important things you guys have to take into consideration is the fact that they're redoing the internals, putting a new heat sink in and whatnot. And that's the major key right there you have to pay attention to. With all the vertical issues I've been hearing about, if you stand your PlayStation up vertically, the heatsink can rub down into the motherboard and potentially mess your system up. That right there is a good enough reason to purchase the slim model. But we'll see what Sony does. Hopefully they keep the disk drive as well, because there are talks of coming out with a PS5 with no disk drive and having a separate disk drive sold separately. It kind of defeats the purpose of making a all digital PS5. It's kind of like they're not sure. They have one toe dipped in digital and one toe dipped in having the optical drive. It's kind of crazy. Okay, moving on to some Resident Evil 4 news. This time, Resident Evil 4's Ada Wong actress gets harassed. Apparently, it seems that fans have took to Twitter and the internet to harass Resident Evil 4 Ada Wong, aka Lily Gallo, hope I'm saying her name right, on her performance and acting of her Ada Wong character role. As you can see here, placed in this article, Lil Gallo, who played Ada Wong in the new highly rated remake, while her performance was criticized by some, that devolved into people heading to her Instagram to personally harass her. And as such, she hid all of her posts on the platform except for one, talking about the role of privilege in society, which had been posted back in 2020. Now, in the wake of the harassment and Gaia's retreat, we're seeing the other side of things as people try to rally to her side and support her, letting her know that they think she did a good job. Guys, we really have to stop doing this nonsense. It's uncalled for and childish. Back in my times, we never had behavior like this, but in this day and age, the toxic is beyond an all-time high. It's not that serious, guys. It's just a video game. Find something better to do with your time instead of being cooped up in your parents' dusty basement or attic trolling people on video games. Seriously, get a life, people. I haven't gotten that far into Resident Evil 4, so I don't know how bad her acting is or if it's bad at all. I'm pretty sure it's good. If it was bad, Capcom would have let her redo it or let somebody else do it. But guys, man, these actors and actresses work very, very hard to piece this game together and show some respect. If you think her acting was bad in the game, okay, fine. Keep it to yourself, but don't go on the internet and personally go on her page and troll her about that. Guys, that's just crazy. That just goes to show me, man, that you guys really, really don't have any home training, no discipline, no principles or anything. You guys really, really need to get a life. Shout out to Lil Gallo, the chick that played Ada Wong in Resident Evil 4. Keep doing your thing. And moving on to other news. It seems like the infamous Doom 64 is on sale in the Nintendo eShop right now for $2. Yes, you heard right, $2. That's enough to buy you a McChicken, a McDouble. I've been a fan since the Nintendo 64 days. I've always loved this game. It was very different and unique from any other Doom that came before it. Even though I think due to the Nintendo 64 limitations, some things were missing, like the music and not lots of enemies being on screen at the same time. No real soundtrack, but it was replaced by an eerie, scary tone, which did add to the tone and atmosphere of the game. It's still a great game underneath its surface. It was a tough game indeed, especially it was filled with very hard puzzles. Trying to figure out how to get through the levels was you required some thinking maybe this was the dev's way of making the game longer due to the cartridge limitations. Whew, guys, I don't know about you, man, but I certainly covered a lot of news today, and right now we're gonna get into something crazy. Have you guys heard of the Asus Rog Ally? Asus, or is it Asus? I call it Asus, the brand that makes laptops and monitors. We're gonna go with Asus for this video. Asus announces its new handheld, the Rog Ally. The Rog Ally is a Windows 11 gaming handheld comparable to handheld released by AONEO, GPD, and One Notebook. It reminds me a lot of One X Player, similar to the Steam Deck. The Rog Ally also seems to be using a custom chip co-created by AMD, paired with a 1080p screen, a dual fan design, and access to Armory Crate, an app created by Asus Rog that until now has been used to install drivers, control RGB lights, and more on other Asus Rog hardware like motherboard, GPUs. The new version of Armory Crate seems to allow users to control key mapping and add games from different platforms like Xbox, Game Pass, Steam, or the Epic Store. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of these wannabe Switch handhelds where the battery life only lasts 1.5 hours of playtime. It's funny how people criticize the Switch, but at the end of it, everybody wants to be a Switch, but don't want to be a Switch. Get it? So this is another handheld PC that's comparable to the Steam Deck, and out of all of them, this one looks kind of promising. I will admit it's a prototype right now. It's in a prototype phase, but out of all of them, I would say the Rog Ally looks pretty decent. But honestly, guys, I'm not into these handheld PCs, man. I'm tired of everybody wanting to be a Switch. I'll wait for the Nintendo Switch too. But good news, and this is what the Steam Deck had failed to do. The Rog Ally by Asus is going to be on retail shelves, aka Best Buy. So if you want to pick this up in the following upcoming months, Asus will be putting the Rog Ally on Best Buy store shelves. Now, I'm curious to know what the price point is going to be, because the base Steam Deck is $400 and the most expensive one is, I believe, $600 something. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have the $600 version. So if they can get the Rog Ally at least $500, $600, they're good. But the Rog Ally is a pretty powerful beast from what I'm hearing. It has a 120 hertz refresh screen at 1080p. So think about that, guys. But I'm not really interested. I'm more interested in what Nintendo's going to do with the Switch 2. Now, moving on to our final news. New Western digital memory card for Xbox Series X and S has been seen in the wild. A new 1TB Western digital expansion card for the Xbox Series X and S has been spotted online, suggesting cheaper storage options are coming for the console. As The Verge reports, the SSD expansion card was briefly listed on Best Buy over the weekend for $180. The listing has since been removed. Well, that's good news for people that are interested in the card for quite some time. Now is your chance to grab one. More memory for less is always a good thing. And that's going to be it for Red Crimson News. See you next video, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next video.